You're looking to move and you're trying to figure out, do I sell my current house and put that money into the new house? Or do I keep my low 3% interest rate and rent out my current house with a long-term rental or even a short-term rental? And that's what we're gonna go over in this video. So if that is the question that's running through your head, I'm gonna go through the exact scenario of what you need to think about to make sure that you're making a smart decision, both financially and mentally. I totally understand the dilemma. I've done it myself. I've considered selling rental properties. I've considered selling my current house when I bought a new house. I have been through the ringer. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and I help folks kind of mentally make the jump or not make the jump into being a landlord with their current home when they're purchasing their next. I've been through it. In this video, we're gonna go through that with you to make sure that you can make that decision yourself. I've seen clients obsess over this for months, and I'll tell you right now, obsessing over months is not going to get you the answer that you want. It's not going to become easier in 3 months, 5 months, even 12 months from now to make that decision. It's something that you need to wrestle with right now and figure out what makes sense for you. So from here, we're gonna go through two main things and then the how to rent your property if you decide to rent it. So if you want to know what it looks like to rent the property, stay along. We're gonna get to there at the end of the video. But first, we're gonna go through the financial considerations, both pros and cons of keeping a property or selling it. And we're gonna go through the convenience factor. So it's definitely more convenient in the long run to sell your house because once you sell it, it's gone. You're done with it. But is it the best financial? And then vice versa, it might be the best financial to keep it long-term, maybe, but the convenience factor is way less convenient owning a house than it is to just sell and be done. Financial considerations, things you need to think about financially when you're trying to decide, should I sell my current house or should I just keep it as a rental? And the first just very basic conversation we need to have is, do you have equity in the house? When you sell your house, are you going to walk away with cash? And if so, how much cash? Or are you going to have to pay the bank to sell your house? Meaning the fees and the mortgage payoff, where does that lie? So for example, say you buy your house for $300,000 and you have $250,000 mortgage with the bank. With all fees and once you sell the property, you're gonna walk away with probably $20,000 to $30,000 of cash in that scenario. So you need to figure out the payoff for your house with a mortgage. All you do is call your mortgage company, ask for the loan payoff. They're gonna say, when do you wanna check into that? And just say, anytime in the next month, what is my mortgage payoff? They'll send it to you in a few days. And that's the number of the debt that you have basically with the bank on that current day. The next question is you need to know what your home is worth. Meaning you need to talk to a licensed professional, myself, someone in the real estate industry that is a realtor that can give you a professional opinion of value on your home. Do not go to Zillow, do not go to realtor.com, do not go to those informational sites. They're good at just giving a generalization, but it's not good at giving you an exact data point. If you want to know and have a full formula, full report on what your property is worth, my information will be below in the email. If you're in the Des Moines metro area, I'll absolutely do it. If you're not in the Des Moines metro area, I will connect you with an agent that has been trusted and vetted through myself in the area that you're at. So wherever you're at, I have multiple connections and in various connections with people, with realtors in different cities. Email me below and I'll give you the name of a realtor that is connected and vetted and understands the pricing in your exact area. And then the last thing you need to know is, what is the rental rate for the property that you currently live in? This is by far the toughest thing to figure out. Zillow is going to give you a Zestimate, a Zillow rent estimate. You can look up on Facebook Marketplace and you can try to see how many people are renting a similar property to yours online. And you can also use like an apartments.com and you're gonna look at other properties and you're gonna have to do the back end research of what you think the property is going to rent for. You could take the easy route also and call a property management company. If you just go into Google and you type in property management company, you're gonna get a list, and I would recommend calling 2 or 3 and just tell them, hey, this is the address. What do you think my property would rent for? It's in average condition, it's in above average condition. Again, for the neighborhood, you're gonna know basically what your neighbors' kind of houses are and if yours is better or worse than theirs. That way you know what the rent income could be on a long-term basis for your property. And once you understand those factors, let's put them on the side right now. If, in the scenario that the mortgage was $3,000 a month, you believe a long-term tenant would pay you $22 a month to rent your property, you'd be losing $800 per month. In that scenario, I'll just stop you right now. Do not rent out your property. I'm pretty bullish on that. Like, if that's a scenario, that's a big dollar amount that you're losing, like you're paying in every month to make that a rental and keep that property. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. If you're in maybe a high cost of living area, I could see maybe you have a lot of equity in the house and it's paying for itself with the appreciation that's expected. Maybe that would make sense, but I highly doubt it. A good rule of thumb to just decide, hey, should I even dig in further would be, what is the mortgage and can rent that comes in be an amount above the mortgage. $1 above the mortgage, that's tough because you're gonna have to pay all the repairs, right? So furnace goes out, roof goes out, any maintenance that needs to happen on the house, that's on you, the owner. If it's a couple $100, it's getting closer. If it's $1,000, you're even closer, because you gotta think, you're gonna have some expenses, but the rent that's coming in is going to pay for the mortgage, and you need to get some reserves to make sure it pays for any expenses also. Now we're gonna go into the convenience factor. Before I got into real estate investing heavily, and as a real estate agent that really worked a lot with investors and homeowners are trying to decide, do I sell or should I stay? I was young, I was dumb, I had a small family at the time. So I didn't really factor in my time and the stress that comes from owning a rental property. Fast forward 5-6 years now, I now see it from my clients. I see it from myself as I own properties. The stress and convenience factor of owning a rental, it is nothing that you should look over. Now, it might not be able to calculate on a spreadsheet, but it absolutely is something that you need to factor in, and you need to understand your mental bandwidth and ability to run a property or manage a property, or hire a property management company to manage the property for you. You'll pay them a fee. But we'll get all into that here in the next 5 minutes. So the first question you need to ask on the convenience side of things is, are you gonna still live in the home? Yeah, I know, you're like, hey Darson, we've been talking about, am I gonna move out? Am I gonna rent out my property as I buy another property? But there are a set of folks that are trying to decide, hey, do I rent out the basement of my property and I live upstairs and I just have a tenant in the basement? That is a really good way to bring in some income without changing your mortgage balance or getting a higher cost of expenses, because your mortgage is your mortgage. It's probably fixed for a period of time. That's something to consider. That's going to be not convenient, I would say, because you have someone living in the basement, so you have to cater to them. But it's gonna be more convenient than if you had to drive across town to work on a property or fix things on the property or deal with tenant issues. Second thing to think about for convenience is, if you're going to manage the property yourself, how connected are you with plumbers, electricians, handymen? How good are you at the paperwork to make sure that you're compliant on leasing out the property to a person and not discriminating against tenants that apply? How good are you at marketing a property? Have you done the research, and what does that look like? I'm not gonna get deep into that in this video, but you need to have kind of a business owner mindset in order to fully maximize your ability to rent out your property. And there's different levels of this skill set. There's professionals, there's in between, and then there's people that are just fly by the night and just throwing gum at a wall. It's probably gonna rent for this, and if you get people, you get people. If you don't, you don't. It's not a very efficient way to do it. It's not really my preferred method way to do it. But if that's your mentality, you need to know, hey, it's not gonna be as efficient as if I had this properly and effectively managed. Multiple books on it, there's different videos on it. I'm happy to sit down with anyone that wants to just talk through what that looks like. But yeah, managing a property, you need to be connected in the area. You need to be close to the property because you're gonna have to drive over there at some point. Now, I say need to be close, but my first rental that I bought was actually 2.5 hours to the southeast of where I live. I was not that close, but I was within driving distance. Is that the best way to do it? Yeah, probably not, but I learned. And what I learned, I'm trying to relay to you, having a property that's closer to your home, maybe 15 to 30 minute drive, much more convenient. The goal is never to have to go there. Absolutely, the goal is. And there are ways to set processes up in place so that you never do have to go there. But I do think that someone that is gonna feel comfortable going there, like that's gonna make the property an easier first purchase. It's not for everyone, you don't have to do it. I know many people that buy their first rental property or rent a property that's not near their current home. It's a convenience factor, and that's what this section's about. So I've kind of went over the financial reasons why you'd want to keep the property or not, or things you need to think about. And then we talked about the convenience factors of either selling your property or renting out your property. And really, the convenience factor is absolutely just more convenient to just sell the property. But does that make the most sense? So you're gonna have to bet on the area. And I say bet on the area. To keep the property, it needs to be comfortably convenient for you, and it needs to be financially stable and a smart investment. And we've went over both of those things. The third thing is you're gonna have to, in my opinion, love the area that your property is in. If you don't love the area, unless you really have a way higher rent than your mortgage is, if you don't love the area, I would recommend selling it. If you don't love the area, there's a good chance that other people are not gonna love the area, and there's a possibility that housing prices, they not only might not go up, they might go down. I'm an investor and I help people buy and sell in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm incredibly bullish on Des Moines, Iowa. Most people don't know about it, still only 750,000 people, and you can buy a duplex for $250,000 as an investment. You rent it out for $1,000, $1,100 per side, or you can buy a single family. The numbers aren't gonna be as good. You could say a $200,000 property rents for $1,500, $1,600. Like all day long, that's absolutely the numbers. But the house that you're moving out of, you need to know what that's going to rent for, and that's gonna all come into play here. So is the area that you're in a place that you would rebuy in the next 5 years? If that's a yes, then I would say that's another factor, almost like a financial factor, into keeping the property and making it a long-term rental. But in the next 5 years, if you feel like the trend of the area is not good and you're like, in 5 years, I probably wouldn't buy in this area, it might be a smart idea to sell the property. Another financial factor, I'm gonna kind of tie this back in here, is if you sell the property today, you have a lot more favorable tax benefits or non-benefits. Basically the equity that you have in the property from the amount you purchase for to what you sell it for and what you gained is non-taxable if you're single up to $250,000 and if you're a family up to $500,000. Contact your tax person, I'm no tax person, but if you sell today or in the next 2 years, it's going to benefit you in the tax ways to sell the property, as opposed to keeping it for the next 10 years and then getting taxed on the difference. There's a lot of variables there. If you're in the comments and you're telling me, hey, this is not true, it's pretty close. There's definitely different rules around it, but all in all, it's more tax favorable to just sell your personal residence than it is to keep it for 10 years and then sell it in 10 years. So that is a financial factor. So at this point, if you're still watching the videos and you're like, hey, Darson, I do think I'm gonna rent it out. I don't think I'm gonna sell it. I think I'm gonna rent out my property. There's steps that you need to take in order to effectively and efficiently rent out your property. And so that's what I'm gonna do in the second half of the video, is talk about what it looks like to rent out your property effectively, efficiently, and as stress-less as possible. We kind of talked about some of this stuff, but we're gonna go through this really quick. First, you're gonna research the property. What is it gonna rent for? What do you think it's gonna rent for? What does it say on Zillow? What is Facebook Marketplace? What is apartments.com? How much do you think your property is gonna rent for? Next, you're going to market your property. So you're gonna need to put it in, have good photos, put it in the apartments.com, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, and put it out for rent. I would recommend doing this sooner than later and using professional photos. If you're on Facebook Marketplace or Zillow and you're looking at rental photos, it's absolutely terrible. The property managers don't do good photos. The owners don't do good photos. If you just take good photos of your property, I will almost guarantee you'll pay for the photographer in 1 or 2 months, because you get $100 to $150 more per unit if you just take good photos. Second, you're going to need to vet tenants. So as tenants come in, you're going to need to have a process for a background check for them. You need to know what you are requiring for income. You need to figure out what you can not allow or allow. Pets, you need to figure out, are you going to allow them or not? You need to figure out, when are they gonna move in? Why are they leaving their previous place? There's a lot of tactical things that go into here. Picking a good tenant is one of the most important things about owning a rental property. No arguments. I would say that is probably the most important thing of making sure that it is a fun experience and a lucrative experience for you to own a rental property, as opposed to a pain in the butt, terrible horror stories of owning a rental property. And as you have tenants come in, they're gonna ask for what's in the lease and what's not in the lease. You're gonna have to have a professional lease, in my opinion, a professional lease put together so that you can evaluate and make sure that there's a legal binding contract that tenant does the things in the lease that you agree to and don't agree to. There's a whole nother video I could do on what should go in a lease agreement. Talk to your preferred attorney, figure it out, and get very comfortable with the lease, because you wanna make sure that there's language in there that protects you as the owner in the specific state that you're at. I'm in Iowa. I'm not gonna use an Illinois lease agreement. I'm not gonna use a Minneapolis or Minnesota lease agreement. You need to use an Iowa lease agreement, and my preference would even be to use a lease agreement from an attorney in the county that you, and maybe even city, that you are leasing the property in. So there's gonna be different regulations and stipulations per county, maybe even per city, definitely per state. So take that into consideration when you are drafting up that lease agreement for the tenant. Also, when you do present that to the tenant, you need to present it with all the good things and all the things that they need to watch out for. Things like just trash can't be out in the front yard. Just somehow get that in the lease. I don't know how to do it. Talk to your attorney. But that's a very simple example. People would think, the owner would think, no, it's pretty normal. But if it's not in your lease, the tenant can do whatever they want to that property, right? Like, they can have trash in the front yard. They can have multiple cars in the front yard. If it's not in your lease, they can do what they want. You have to put in your lease to make sure they can't do the things that are going to, one, devalue your property. Because once you go to sell it and it has no grass in the front yard, they devalue the property. Was that really worth it? No. Two, if they're still there and there's 14 cars parked in the front yard, I'll tell you right now, a homeowner, someone buying it, or an investor, someone buying it, doesn't want to buy your property when there are a bunch of cars in the front driveway or front yard. They will devalue your property because of that. So definitely think long-term of, when you have that rental unit, what is going to be the downstream side effects of renting it out to XYZ type of people. Having a lease in there with the specific language in the lease makes this much more tolerable and easy for you to say, hey tenant, you guys can't do this, please move the cars, or you broke the lease and get out. And then once you get the tenant in there and they start paying, you need to have them a process to notify you when something's wrong with the property, because you don't want them to just breeze past things that are wrong with the property. You want them to tell you what's wrong with the property. Not overdo it, but you don't want them to not tell you that there's a leak in the property and put a bucket underneath it and just wait until you walk it the next time. Like, that's really not a smart way to communicate to your clients or to your tenants. Also have a process for payment. So there's different methods and systems and softwares and whatever. I would highly recommend don't do cash, right? Because there's no receipt for it. I'm not an attorney. Figure out your due diligence, but keep in mind you're going to want an electronic payment system. We're going to minimize fees for yourself and the tenants. Like I would guess, probably automatic late fees for whatever's set up in your lease. All these things come into play, and you need to kind of piece them out, put them strategically in a process for when you have a tenant in there and they're paying, but then the next time they pay on the 5th, and the next time they pay on the 10th, and the next time they pay on the 20th, there needs to be a process and a late fee and a way to collect money, rent from them. And like I said earlier, they need to have a place that they can tell you when something is broke, a work order, so that you can track that. They know, hey, how long it's going to take to get done. Because if you don't, things are going to drop, and you're going to drop the ball. You're going to have an upset tenant, and you don't want that when you're managing a property. So if you're in the Des Moines market, my name is Darson Grantham. I'm a local real estate agent and investor. I've got experience on both sides, and you want another ear, or you want to have a conversation around what it would look like to, instead of sell your property, you just want to rent it, let me know. Or if you do want to sell it and you want to know the home value, please reach out to me. I'll tell you everything you need to know about your property, the value, how long it's going to take to sell. That's a big one. Maybe how much equity you have in it. I can help you calculate all that. I'm here to help. Call me a strategic partner and a real estate agent. I'm here for you. My information is below. And if you're not in the area, you're not in Des Moines, and you're looking for an agent in a different area, please reach out to me. I will vet agents in your area, and I will make sure that you're connected with an agent that actually knows what they're doing, as opposed to ones that just kind of dabble with a real estate and don't really take the profession seriously. So if that's you, please reach out.